I will call to order this meeting of the Muskego Library Board on May 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Brittany.
All right. Dave. Dave's here.
Dave's here.
Dave's here. Barb. Here. Carrie. Here. We have Kate joining us for Human Resources. Here. Kate. Michelle. Here. Tracy. Here. Jennifer. Here. Phyllis. Here. And Kristen. Here. And we have a quorum.
Excellent. Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Public comment. I see no members of the public here or online. Excellent. No unfinished business. Moving on right away to new business. First item on the agenda is discussion, action, approval of the library director job posting because Brittany is leaving us. Even though she's not going far, she's just going up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry for the probably abruptness a bit of it. Like I said, good opportunity, but I was not job searching. This is a good opportunity here, and I look forward to helping you guys, start this process off. You have meant a lot to me, so it will be hard to leave. All right. So,
should I get a motion and then we'll discuss?
Yep, let's get a motion.
All right.
Yep.
Can I get a motion to approve the library director job posting, please?
I move.
Second.
I second. Goodbye.
Carrie motioned, everybody seconded. Except for me.
All right.
All right, so discussion now. Did you want to speak first?
Yes, please. Back at page 3, Kate and I worked on a job posting, and I just sort of want to articulate before I let Kate add anything else. So, Kate looked around and looked at postings that were sort of, right, similar to what we would be trying to do. And of course, a posting is supposed to be sort of like the summary that pulls people in and gives sort of general information. This is what will be on the website. In addition to the posting, there is going to be what we call a recruitment brochure. And so we want to make sure that we're attracting top talent and that they are really thinking about a lot of different aspects of this position. And so the goal of the brochure is to really, showcase the best of what we have to offer. It is intended to really show a breakdown of how our library is utilized, so like some of those main statistics that we see, the budget, really call out some, not necessarily personality traits, but I guess a little bit of like high expectations of key characteristics that you are looking for. And then, of course, showcase the city as well as an exciting place to come work and live if they so choose. So all of that would be on the website for candidates to look at. And then, in addition, Kate and I have been talking about adding a link. If you recall, a couple months ago, I showed you that walkthrough of the building. And I know I'm biased when I say it, but we were all part of the success of how this building looks. It shows very well. It is an impressive building. Whenever people come from the garden walk, from out of town, whenever people are coming from other libraries, the building impresses, and it has been kept in great condition, and it has been updated. And so I think posting a link to the tour also helps build excitement about the position, and you can really, picture yourself leading this library. So that's sort of my initial run through on that. Kate, do you have anything to add about some of the decisions made?
No, I think that the posting
as you're aware, is just supposed to really hit the high points of what we're looking for, what the qualifications are, what the salary range is, things like that. If you have any suggestions or verbiage changes or anything like that, I'm definitely open to that. This will be posted in a number of different outlets. This will include like the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, the Library Association, professional organizations, and also like Indeed and kind of job and search engines like that. So hopefully this will be broadcast all over the place. It will be a national search, I'm assuming. You never know, someone may want to relocate to Wisconsin from another state, so that's why I do always advise that we look to make sure it's like a national search.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Please. So are you going to post it on the National Library Association's website as well?
That was the plan, yeah.
That was the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, Brittany, are you going to post it on your LinkedIn, your professional LinkedIn as well?
I can. The plan right now, and I meant to get this list to Kate. I'm sorry, Kate, I didn't. So ALA, American Library Association, WLA, Wisconsin Library Association, Bridges Library System website, they post jobs all the time. Neighboring systems websites, if they will allow us to post, like the Milwaukee one. UW Milwaukee and UW Madison, they have listservs where their alumni subscribe to get job, releases, so that as well. There is a state listserv called WisPub Live, which many librarians and everyone is subscribing to that post in that listserv in the profession, so we will send it out to that as well. As Kate mentioned, League of Municipalities, and those are some of the big ones off the top of the head to really cover, I think. And of course, the city's website.
Yep, absolutely. And the job posting and the applicants can go online and apply online through our NeoGov applicant tracking system. So it's pretty user-friendly. If they've applied through NeoGov before, they can just log in and update their information and submit their cover letter and references and things like that pretty easily.
So then you post it separately under NeoGov as well?
That it links right to our website.
Okay.
So they can just go right onto our website and find it there.
Okay. No, it sounds good. And do you have to post it on Indeed?
We do not, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
The reason I bring it up is that, we have stopped posting on Indeed for any jobs that are like mid-level supervisor and above, just because of the amount of directed people that they don't set parameters, and so they apply for everything. Mm-hmm. So we were getting, I did a recruitment for the Human Services Director in Madison. I got 3 people who are Starbucks managers, I got truck drivers, I got all this stuff, and they all came from Indeed.
Yeah.
And all it does is bog down your time, because you got to look at them all to see, because it doesn't say, it just pops up. So you got to open it up and go through the whole process. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
And the last thing you need is 100 people, that are clerks at McDonald's who want to be library directors.
Right. That's a good suggestion. And sometimes I do put them on, and sometimes I don't, just because of that reason. Yeah.
For this level of position, people that are actually looking or are interested, it's going to come from word of mouth. It's going to come from somebody they know, and it's going to come from the professional sites. It's not going to come from Indeed. So.
When you make the post, I'm sure you'll do it on social media also. Can you make sure it's shareable? So
sure.
That, if we're there, that we can share it to our people that we know.
Okay. Yeah. Has that been an issue in the past, or?
It's just that I like sharing stuff that the library posts to because then we get,
right.
drawback from that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We can make sure that happens.
And does the city have a LinkedIn page or not?
I don't believe we have like a presence on LinkedIn, but I don't believe we have a dedicated page, but I'm not 100% sure. If we do, I'm not really active on it. So, but I know the mayor is active on LinkedIn, so he will probably, yes. He will, I would assume, most likely post this.
If he posts it, then I can grab it off of his post and put it on mine.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good network going, so that would be helpful.
And then under knowledge, skills, and abilities, under the part where you're talking about basic graphic design software in Microsoft, can we also add in there Zoom and
Tracy, can we hold on? That's a separate line item. You're talking about the job description?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the job description is the second agenda item. So
Oh, okay.
we
Or
will
unless
definitely.
you want to add it to the, because we don't even mention anything about skill-based on this first one. You just talk about the Masters of Science, the ability to get conducted on like technological innovation or something.
We can absolutely add
Yeah,
a bullet point that says, proficiency in, technology, specific software. I can come up with some verbiage to that effect.
Yeah.
If you guys are
I
comfortable
just
with
feel
that.
like we rely on Brittany to kind of do a lot of that stuff, so.
Evolving technologies in the field. Yep, we can definitely do something like that.
Another question I have on the links, when you do the ad, are you going to link the brochure to the ad and the city's website to the ad and, the video so that there are links in the ad itself so that they can go right there, or how are you going to?
So usually I link it right through the job posting in NeoGov.
Okay.
So when they go to apply, that's where
They'll all be there?
they
So-
would all be there. I can put it in the actual job posting, but I think once they, once they get there, they'll be able to access all the information, the job description, the virtual tour and whatnot, and the brochure.
Okay. Yeah, as long as the links are somewhere that they'll see them right away.
Yeah.
So that's all I was really looking for.
Okay.
Perfect. Looks great. Short and sweet and succinct and enough to get them interested to hit the button.
Is the brochure part of this, or is it part of the?
The brochure is part of the first agenda item, so yeah. If you have any questions about the visual recruitment brochure, we can certainly take that as well.
I think the layout and everything is great. I'm not really sure what prairie we're nestled amongst anymore.
Yeah.
Since it got mowed.
It's over there. It's along the edge.
It's not the wildlife marsh?
Is it? So the marsh is on the left, and the
Prairies on the right.
prairies on prairies on the left, so the marsh is on the right. If you think that's being a little over generous, I certainly can remove that. I was whipping off my creative writing degree and trying to paint a picture, but I can certainly remove that if you think it's a little.
No, it's probably because it's stuck in my head that we mowed the
Yeah.
nice prairie that was in the back.
Yeah.
Because the neighbors didn't like the vermin.
Sounded like we were in the boondocks.
Well, and that was my only other suggestion, that maybe the description say that the library is in the middle of downtown.
Yeah.
So that it shows that locationally it's
It's a walkable area.
Yes, yeah. It's in our downtown, it's walkable. It's just another nice feature.
On the
Somewhere
back page where it says City of Muskego, or on the front page probably on the front page where it's talking about the library?
Wherever your creative skills thinks is most appropriate.
Wherever the same creative writing that elevated prairies and marshes. Library in downtown. Okay, I will add that. One of the questions that I actually had was, you'll notice that I have you guys featured on the front page. Your presence, is there. Now, in the first draft, we wrote the letter from the Muskego Public Library Board, and then I had Michelle's name signing it. We could also just have it signed Muskego Library Board, or just not have anything at all, because the top line says a letter from the Muskego Public Library Board. And so I don't know if there's preferences on how that letter looks.
That's fine.
I would just make her name more like a signature. Have a typo.
You can put a space in between.
Personalized.
Yeah.
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 Oh, sure.
Thanks.
I wasn't asked. She just did this.
Yeah.
It's true. I did.
I'm joking.
You can just change it to like calligraphy font or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, but just make her name seem like it's more of a.
There's ways to do that in Adobe.
I didn't make you important enough in the first font choice. You're not calibre. You are much higher caliber. Yeah, I can do that.
I had one sort of typo on page 5 of the brochure, which is the "Can you picture yourself leading this library?"
Mm-hmm.
On the left, under this, in this library, the director must, second bullet, responsible fiscal management.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make a full sentence.
It sure doesn't.
Must be must have
responsible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, must have
But I
responsible.
used have on the first line. Must
Be responsibly
Be fiscally responsible.
be fiscally.
Provide responsible.
Oh yeah, provide.
Exhibit,
Provide.
like fiscal
Way to go,
responsibility.
Yeah. Yep.
or manage fiscally responsibility. Just
Change it around.
change, yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Well, if I use manage. I'll think about it, but I will make it actually sound like I know how to write.
Oh my gosh.
That's very eye-catching, very, very well organized.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So I want to give credit to Amanda Highland. What I did was I took the template from an old annual report because I thought, showcasing this library is very much about how is it funded, what are the statistics, things like that. And then I pulled out a bunch of things that didn't make sense, and then I put in. But the design template was from Amanda. So it was good to be able to, use it in a way, in a different way.
Now, Katie will use it for all the rest of the recruitments.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was good to put the friends on the back because
Oh, yeah.
they are effective. And I think being able to see that there is a sound structure to the friends, that they are active, that they are working with the staff, I think it helps showcase, right next to the community profile that we have, that things are going very well, that they're walking into a lot of successful infrastructures. Anything else? Oh, I have to change the link now, the website changed. I will fix that. All right.
All those in favor of approving the library director job posting with the minor corrections that we discussed today, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Aye.
Motion passes.
You didn't want to put on there about the fire stuff.
No, that's under what?
Shockingly that it's not on here.
You know what? They should be happy to walk in knowing that the ceiling's not going to fall.
That's where well-made team came in.
Yeah,
It was very subtle.
They want to bring hot and tent for office.
No longer discouraged by HR. No, I'm an exempt employee. It doesn't matter.
All right, next item on the agenda, discussion and action, approval of updates to library director job description. Can I get a motion to approve the library director job description?
So moved.
Thank you, Tracy.
Second. Dave can-
Okay, Dave, can have it.
Yours, no,
The job description hadn't been looked at since 2015. That being said, so Kate, do you maybe want to explain sort of what your process was as we dusted it off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some updates.
So I,
I talked to Brittany. I also looked at other communities, kind of job descriptions and job postings to kind of look at some verbiage that I could borrow, and then looked through just best practices, and kind of came up with a draft. And then Brittany and I met, went through it, made sure it kind of made sense to both of us, and that's how we kind of arrived at this draft that we have in front of us now. It kind of walks through essential duties and responsibilities, and then it goes through the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required to be successful in this role, and then it goes into the minimum training, education, the essential job function requirements, and then the physical requirements are pretty standard part of a job description. So if you have any questions on any of this, feel free, but that's kind of how we arrived at this draft.
And this is where I would say, like, under the skill in computerized financial software, maybe add Zoom and YouTube or whatever else stuff we're using up there.
Social media.
But I mean, just all of that.
Yeah, the streaming and the,
Okay, basic graphic design software, so like in there, just add social media, and then
Streaming and,
streaming platform. Yeah.
Streaming platforms, probably.
yeah.
Okay.
On page 7, that's under knowledge, skills, and abilities, the second bullet, ironically about communicating, is a little awkward. Ability to communicate professionally with tact, discretion, and diplomacy verbally, in writing and in presentations. You see what I mean? It's a little odd.
I agree. When I thought that was a little choppy.
Yeah.
So maybe both verbally and in writing? So it's with tact, discretion, and diplomacy, both verbally and in writing, and in presentations. You gotta rewrite that a little more than that. So.
maybe it needs to be 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make
That was my
commas do a lot of work.
suggestion.
I'm famous for commaing everything, so yeah,
Okay.
we can rewrite that.
I will die on the Oxford comma hill. Sorry.
I was going to ask a question about the physical requirements and the minimum training. So under minimum training, it says must possess a valid Wisconsin driver's license. Is that a fundamental core of the position, or is that a preferred?
It's not, well, there is travel that is involved with this position. Now, if they could, find a way to travel without themselves driving, but I would say it's probably preferred more than essential, but we usually put these in most of our job descriptions.
I just know that, we had a library director for about 25 years who did not drive.
Oh, okay.
And so it worked out, it was a problem occasionally, but, she managed to pull it off. So that's why it's one of the reasons I asked. And it is something that in the recruiter world that we're looking at a lot more about what are some of the cores and what are preferred. Clearly, it would be preferred to get a driver's license, especially out here because we don't have mass transit.
Right.
But with the advent of Uber and other things, it kind of makes it a little easier. So that's why I asked the question, is it a fundamental yes or preferred?
Yeah, I would say it would be
Asking the
preferred.
question.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of denote that on there if you'd like, just kind of add it as a preferred.
I guess I would, defer to Brittany. And what do you think is?
The most frequent travel that I do is to the monthly library director meetings. They do offer an online option. However, my personal opinion is that it can often be more effective to be in person. There are just some gains that can be achieved. So yeah, I suppose if they could find a way to be present at those meetings, effectively present at those meetings, it wouldn't be as important. But involvement at those meetings is really important. So how that happens and how they can be effective.
So we can maybe just say valid Wisconsin driver's license preferred or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the odds are that it won't be an issue with anybody, because if they're not gonna pass the background because they don't have a driver's license, that's a whole different flag that gets them kicked out.
Yes.
Because they're not allowed to drive, is being different than
And I
choosing
mean,
not to
People
drive.
don't have driver's licenses though too for like, you know, a wide variety of reasons. Could be, you know, things beyond like their control, so,
Yes.
you know. So I like putting preferred because we don't wanna like discriminate anyway, not that, you know what I mean, I'm not saying anyone is doing that, but I feel like it just kind of makes it sound more like equitable, I guess.
What if they're from out of state? I mean, I'm sure there's an expectation that they get a Wisconsin driver's license, but they might not have one when they apply.
I think that at some point they're required to get it when they
They
move to
have
the
30
state.
days when you
Yeah,
move,
so
you
they,
gotta get one.
you know,
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to within a certain amount of days,
Right.
so
Or like
hopefully,
a state ID or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Gail walked here all the time, not that she worked, but I'm just saying, somebody could move within walking distance and not have a license and do it that way.
They could live in the condos right behind us.
Yeah. The main reasons why I use my car is to go to the monthly director meetings, to visit other libraries, to, you know, get ideas, to go to City Hall, to meet with department heads.
Give little talks around.
Conferences, yeah, or
Yeah,
attending
conferences,
like
right.
continuing education. So again, it's not impossible to figure those things out, but I think it would be important to outline to someone like, it is expected that
Right.
that this is figured out, and will you be able to, you know, to do it, so.
Well, I think that's good.
One thing I would add under the essential duties and responsibilities is something that you just mentioned 2 seconds ago, professional development and continuous education, because I feel like that's a core thing you want to see out of an individual that's looking here.
So I know we did reference that they should represent the library at the system level and actively participate in professional library associations. Did you want me to just add and continuing education opportunities,
Yeah,
something like that?
professional development.
Professional development,
Yeah.
okay, and other professional development opportunities?
Sure.
Okay.
Along the same lines as the driver's license under physical requirements, the physical requirements under here are, you know, what I would expect to see like in a shelter or someone who's working the floor. Is that level of physical ability necessary in the library director? Not that, you know, do we want our library director dragging 400 pounds of books around? Is it an absolute requirement? Because when you send them through the evaluation for the, you know, their onboarding physical, they're gonna have to do all these things to prove that they can do them.
So here's the tricky thing. Do I do that daily? No. But this position, you are a director of a medium-sized library. And what that means is you kind of play in both fields. Sometimes we have big library problems, right? We're very, very busy. We're very successful. We have tons of circulation coming in. You know, so sometimes you're dealing with policies in a way that we're a big library. Sometimes, though, we have a certain size staff, and I'll be honest, if one person is already on vacation and then another person is sick in a department, we are all of a sudden like, who can help out? And while I don't do it daily, I have emptied the book drop, I have pushed carts around. You know, when we were doing our children's renovation in 2018, everyone was pushing book carts that were super heavy because we needed to get those shelves emptied. So I think it would be problematic to not make that an expectation so that this position knows you may have to pitch in. Not all the time. It may not be your priority, but there are sometimes I would recommend keeping it.
So it'd be more appropriate to have it as a periodic instead of to denote that it's not a constant requirement?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to list it, yeah, as a period, you know, not.
So instead of, you know, what I see a lot of times is
Daily
it says,
or
you know,
something.
daily or routinely, you know, on a, you know, and, you know, here would be occasional.
Yeah, and
Type of
they
thing.
did list occasional for lifting 50 pounds, so we can just, add
Yeah.
occasional
Yeah.
to the pushing and pulling.
Yeah. Just so that it's qualified.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That sounds like a lot of weight too.
It does.
300 to 400 pounds?
That's pretty much a
Things they do.
book card or a full book then, right?
Yeah.
This community reads a lot.
Books.
Why
weigh a
can't they be
ton.
digital?
You know? I'm telling you though, you see the statistics, both our physical and our electronic just keep growing. People are just
Yeah.
reading more in this community, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's what this community does. They love to read, learn, grow, do all those things, which is why we are 8th in circulation amongst 24 libraries in our system, almost consistently every month.
Yeah, very-
And a couple smaller things on page 7 again, under knowledge, skills, and abilities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 7th bullet point down, ability to think strategically and to develop a vision that is consistent with the organization's values. Organizations needs an apostrophe, right? Okay.
Yep.
Or did we want to say libraries' values?
That sounds better, I think.
With the library's values, would that be okay?
More specific, yeah.
And then the next one down, ability to foster and maintain positive public relations for the library within the public. Can we remove within the public? And that doesn't really
Yeah,
make
that
sense
doesn't
to
make
me.
sense.
Or within the
Say public
community?
relations.
Within the
Within the
community.
community? Positive public relations for the library within the community.
Sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
sounds
sounds
a
a
lot
lot
better,
better.
yeah.
It's kind of like public what?
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Pretty soon they're gonna be like, what's a fax machine?
You know what
Yeah.
is so funny, guys? The amount of faxes we've been doing lately is crazy.
Really?
We switched to e-faxing, and I didn't realize how much we faxed until now.
Really?
So,
Faxing too. I mean, the only people I know accept faxes are, there's a couple agencies in the state and your doctor's office.
It's medical, legal,
Really?
like the state.
Faxes, maybe.
Oh, that are doing scanning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we are best friends with our fax machine in my office.
Oh,
Medical.
medical,
I
yeah.
believe it. Yeah, I believe it. It's.
I know the medical field hasn't gotten away from it.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor of approving updates to the library director job description, including the minor corrections that we discussed in the meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. All right, next item of business, discussion action, appointment of library director search committee. Do we vote? Or do
So
we just appoint?
I wasn't sure. This is not, I wasn't sure if we wanted to put all this on a presidential appointment. I guess it's technically a committee, so maybe it was just a presidential appointment. But I thought I would just leave it open to the board just in case. But I do feel like I have some things to say about this, and obviously there's no slate right now, so I feel like, I know we normally like to not get into discussion first, but I guess I would beg to be allowed to speak first, just so I can explain a little bit about what I'm suggesting, or we're suggesting. So you probably saw from the job posting, the plan is to be aggressive and post this on the 9th. We want to get this started. As you know, over the course of the next 2 months, June and July, that's when you guys see a first draft of the budget and then vote on it. And then in August, it gets sent to the city, and then the city starts their process in August, September, and October. And it would be really neat if we could get someone in, so by, August, by really, the start of the city's process so that they can get comfortable. Obviously, I'm going to be leaving a draft of the operating and capital budget for the interim director, but it would be, and remember, in June and July, really all, I don't want to say all that you guys do, it's the most important thing, in my opinion, aside from searching for a director, but June and July is really the budget talks. And so your budget will have a draft, it will be ready, but getting somebody in by August is really, I think, helpful. So a month for the search. I went back and I looked in the depths of the network drive, and I found the search process that was used to look for me, and these are some things that we can talk about. The last search committee had 3 trustees on it. It had 1 staff member, the head of reference. It had the system director on it. It had human resources, or the person filling the role of human resources, and then possibly a member of the Friends of the Library, although I really don't remember if that actually happened. Now, a couple of things. The bigger the search committee, the harder it is to find a time to meet, so we kind of want to think about that. I am strongly recommending you have a staff member on the committee, and specifically the head of reference. They are someone who's been here 12 years. They are someone who, when I'm not around, like I'm on vacation, they're the one that has to enact the policies, approve, do things in my absence. And so they directly supervise staff. They are, they would be a good person to get feedback from. Obviously, human resources, I would highly recommend having on the search committee as well. The system director, that is a complex conversation to have. So the value of having a system director on the committee, the system director has often been asked to serve on search committees with other libraries when they're searching for a director. They have experience, they know the different libraries, the directors, they can have good perspective. The downside is that's me, downside, upside. The concern that I have is sometimes I don't think you can have an open, authentic conversation if the person who's departing the position is in the room. So, for example, I think it might be awkward for someone who is interviewing to have authentically, if they say, hey, what would you do differently with this library? And then they're like, I would change, well, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that in front of the, I also don't know if you guys could have the most authentic set of questions, What if one of your questions was, tell us what you would do differently, to really improve, would you be able to have authentic conversations on both sides? It's just something to think about, and that is my concern. So you can think about that. Alternatively, we have an offer from the current system director who is retiring to serve. They're not leaving town. It sounded like they'd be willing to support you guys and help in a capacity. And so you would get the benefit of the experience of the position and the perspective without potentially, maybe everything would be fine, but potentially sort of, I don't want to call it a conflict of interest, but just, like I said, the potential for barriers to authentic conversations. So that's something to think about. And then, of course, do you want 3 trustees? And if so, who? And one other thing I will state before we start then the conversation is I would estimate that, picture what a search committee will do. They will meet separately. Their job is to do the initial lifting to get the board to the final candidates, right? So they're going to meet after this meeting. They're going to develop questions. They will accept questions from any board member, right? But they're going to be the ones formalizing and finalizing. They will get the candidate applications, all of them. They will review them. They will meet and discuss. They will narrow it down to a first round. That will be them, not the full board. That will be them, right, Kate? That's usually, yeah. So that they will narrow it down. They will go through a first round of interviews, however many candidates that is, and then they will narrow it down to a final set of candidates. And at that point, they present it to the full library board, or bring the full library board in, and that full library board meets with the final round of candidates and makes a selection. So by my estimate, it's about 4 to 5 extra meetings. If one of those meetings is coming up with questions, another meeting is meeting to talk about who do we want for the first round, and then another meeting to discuss that and bring forth recommendations to the full board. So 3 to 5, it really depends on how that goes. So I just kind of wanted to paint a picture of what would be asked of the search committee as we're talking about who should be on it. And Kate, do you have anything else to add?
I think, you want to kind of keep in mind having all the stakeholders represented, but then also be cognizant of how many people are in the room versus the one candidate and kind of the optics that creates. I will definitely, if you would like me to participate at it, absolutely be willing to participate and help, kind of head off some of the work and create a draft set of questions so you can review them, things like that. I think you hit everything that we've kind of discussed.
When the search committee is interviewing the first round of candidates, can that be virtual? Does it need to be a person? Is it usually the whole committee? Or are there separate interviews, half an hour back to back?
I have done virtual interviews, but typically here in the city of Muskego, I haven't done them as often. So I would probably recommend in person if we, unless the candidate is, out of state. And at that point, I think we would definitely give them a virtual option. Yeah.
And the only thing I would follow that up with is if you end up with candidates, that 1 or 2 are out of state and it's virtual, then we should do all of them virtual so that everyone is on the same playing field. Because people do present differently in person versus virtually. So.
You're correct. Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to add that if I have any say in it, I strongly would like for us to consider prioritizing in-person interviewing as much as it is possible. Because exactly that point, people's in-person presence can be quite different than it is online.
Is the anticipation that we would pay for travel? I mean, normally you would pay for travel for someone to come in, so if we had somebody from Florida, would we fly them up and put them up and then interview them?
I haven't encountered that yet, so I would imagine that we would consider it, but I don't know that I have a budget to do that necessarily, but it's something I could definitely, run by the mayor, the finance director, and whatnot. I'm sure we could accommodate that if we have a really great candidate who's out of state.
And I only bring it up because, you can opt to not pay for travel for people from out of state. But normally you do. I mean, I just flew a guy up from Florida up to Dane County for a job, and I think his total round trip with his airfare and his room and his car and everything else was like $2,500. So it's not a cheap proposition, I guess is why I'm throwing it out there. So
we had the same scenario with the superintendent, but the person had family here. And so they just kind of came in to visit family and stayed with, and there was no cost.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously, I'm not familiar with how common that is.
I would say I've only happened a couple times in my career, but not, not here specifically. So
in national searches, when you're looking at top level positions, it happens a fair amount. But like I said, I've done communities up north where they'll pay mileage. So if you can drive there and get there, they'll pay your mileage. But if you're so far away, you got to fly, you're on your own. So it kind of cuts the pool down, but
Yeah, I wonder if you might want to, I mean, I suppose that can always be considered, for the right candidate. So maybe that's more of a game time decision, but I would say, paying $2,500, that would be a big hit.
it's a big ask.
And, obviously I will be gone for a little bit. So there's a little bit of savings, but I don't want to say that the position is not worth paying someone that amount of money to get the exact right person in. That's not what I'm trying to say. This is maybe it's posted nationally, but it is, I mean, the searches that you are doing, because I know you're drawing off your own experiences, they
Right.
tend to be for city managers, correct?
And department levels.
And
So-
department levels?
And department
Okay.
levels. So I've done, the most recent department level one was public works director. And I did have somebody apply who did something similar. He had family in Wisconsin, so he made his trip coincide with his interview because he knew it was a big ask for this community up north. But what we've been finding is that especially in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minnesota, there are a lot of people that want to move back to those states that are on the coasts because they're just done with the coasts. And so you've got, these Midwest people who are coming back. So it's not as regional as it used to be because people were pretty mobile in the late 2010s and, kind of scattered all over. And now they're like, yeah, I don't like it. I want to raise my family back in Wisconsin. So we may get somebody like that. You just don't know.
It's one thing if we have one or two applicants like that, but if we have a dozen that
You
are
can't do it,
from,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, we'll go broke.
Right, right.
No children's books for 2026.
You have to, I would think at that point you get down to the final round and then
Yeah.
decide.
Right. If we are down to like two really excellent candidates and that's just, we really need that final push, then okay. But not for 10 applicants.
Right.
No.
Brandy, my question to you is, because you know your staff better than I obviously do, if we appoint someone from the staff to this committee, we probably want to be cognizant of if there was a person within your group that would want to apply for the position too.
Sure. That they
So-
should not be on the committee.
Right.
So I would make sure that.
That would be good.
Yeah, personally will make
It
sure,
sounds
or
like
the
it wouldn't
committee should
happen,
make sure.
but.
Yeah.
I mean, I will not recommend anyone who, yeah. I mean, ultimately, yes, like you as the board or the search committee should screen that final question. Because, that person should not be. Yep.
So I suppose I need to appoint a committee. Let's start with who would like to volunteer to be on it. Dave, yay! I was hoping you would, because of all your experience. I would also like to be on it, but I don't have to run everything. I just would like to serve on it if somebody else wants to
I would be
head the committee. Phyllis?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Because that's very.
I would be interested.
Very. Do we want 4?
I think that's a lot of
If you're
people
voting, do
for-
you need an even number or not?
Well, if you're going to have someone from staff, right, that's one more, and then you'll have
HR is
maybe
5.
the former assistant director to follow Brittany's advice, and then HR, so that's 3 additional people, so that would be 7.
I would max out at that.
At 7.
That's a lot of coordination for 7 individuals.
Agreed. Okay.
All right, so, Dave, Michelle, Carrie, Phyllis, Keith,
If you're taking that as a suggestion, I would suggest we use the former Bridges director, recognizing what you talked about and your potential unease in doing that, and really creating a better atmosphere for the candidates.
It's not, I want to make it very clear, it's not that I'm uneasy in general serving in this capacity, and I don't want you to think that I'm unwilling to do it. I would be willing to do it. But I do think there are some complexities there, and the current system director is very, very good, so it's not like you're getting a unfortunate set of opinions. You're going to be getting quality opinions.
Yes.
Okay. So, what do? We don't have to vote.
Let's see, okay, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kate, do you have any other thoughts or perspectives about the search committee?
No, I think that's a good group. I think it represents, what we're trying to accomplish and different perspectives, and yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. And are you comfortable with the head of reference being on the search committee?
As long as
Should
you
she
don't think
accept?
she wants to
As long as she
pursue.
accepts, yep, and
Yeah,
doesn't create
that would be
any
my-
conflicts that year.
Yeah.
You would also mention the friends, are you not?
You know, I don't want to. Their perspective is so important, and you absolutely need someone who's going to be working and supporting with that group. This is getting to be a pretty big search committee, so I would say with 4 trustees, you have community perspective, and.
Are any of you on? No, are you?
Well, I'm a member, I haven't.
I'm a member.
Okay,
I
so if
haven't
they're a
gone forever.
member, so they
Members.
can cross
No, I know.
cover.
I've been a member of the Friends
I was
Group for
curious.
life.
If head of reference is interested in the position, is there a different person on the staff that would be?
I would have a backup for you.
Okay.
I just to touch on that, I was curious, but I guess I wasn't brave enough to bring it up sooner in the meeting. Is there a system where the position is opened internally first before it is posted to the public, or is the public posting the go live for all?
In this case, I would recommend that we post it both externally and internally at the same time. I don't think, we don't have a policy necessarily that speaks to having to post it internally first or anything like that, and I would recommend just posting it all at once.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kristen. Historically, for positions here, I usually post internally first. However, for the nature of this position, I think you want to know what's out there.
And we're on a timetable, we can't,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to extend it further than we need to.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree, because when you're doing below director positions is great, because you're always trying to promote and educate your people within them to move up. But when it comes to the director, unless you've had a clear succession plan where you've been grooming someone for a long time to take the role, it makes a lot of sense to go out.
There's very few people who would be qualified internally.
Thank you for the question, Kristen. It's an important one to ask.
I would strongly recommend with this search committee group that there is a nice formalized, like, we are going to leave the job posting open for 30 days and go from, you know what I mean, like that there's a distinct timeline as to what is happening so that we stay on target.
It looked like it was posted through June 6th, right?
Mhm.
Right, I think what Tracy's talking about is what happens after the 6th.
Right.
So that we have a
Mhm.
distinct schedule.
Mhm.
So all the jobs that I do, we have a schedule that says, all right, postings here, screenings this week, interviews are this week, the next week we're taking it to the full board, so that it's all laid out really nice and we have a timetable. So
And
we're
have that be shared to everyone,
Oh,
just
yeah.
so that we're aware.
So share search timetable.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So then, just the logistics thing, because I'm not going to be on the search committee, it will fall probably to you, Kate,
Mhm.
and possibly the staff member to schedule the meetings.
That's fine.
Get
Yeah.
everyone together,
Well,
it doesn't have to be it's not an open meeting
Mhm.
because it's not a quorum. So it's just the committee. So I just, I'm going to have to remind myself that I'm not, but somebody will have to be who's not me.
That's fine, I absolutely can do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of us should reach out to the current system director and the head of reference, or would you be doing that?
Who wants to chair the search committee? That's
a question.
Excellent looking question.
Any of you interested?
I am. I would be happy to do it.
I can
Thank
get
you, Dave.
No, I can get you her contact info. And
Okay.
yes, thank you, Dave. I appreciate your willingness to serve. So, okay, yeah, I'll communicate that out, get you that information.
Thank you. And you just made a comment, Brittany, about it not being a public meeting. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I'm questioning that too. It's not a quorum, but it
It's
may.
not a quorum of this, but it's a subcommittee of
Yeah.
the group. So we can verify that with the city attorney and his
Yeah.
opinion. But
I
I
mean-
think we'll have to notice
Yeah.
if everybody comes together.
No, I think you're right on that as I'm saying that out loud, because the Personnel Committee and the Strategic Planning Committee, we've always had those be, even though we go into closed session, for some of them, they're public meetings.
Right.
So, yeah, I think you're right on that.
Everything we'll do will be in closed session, but
Right, yep, no, you're right. So it is an action item.
Action,
That's what I
I think so.
So I think you do need to vote on it.
I think someone has to, because we really didn't
You're right,
open it.
yep, I know.
Did you just discuss first?
I know.
So I'm gonna motion.
It just felt really strange for you guys to motion on something in a vacuum, like there was
Correct.
nothing there, and I just felt
So
wrong.
I'm gonna motion to
Helpful,
approve the library directory search committee as presented with, the people that were identified.
Dave will chair, Carrie, myself, and Phyllis will serve from the board. Kate, sorry. Kate from HR will also serve and help coordinate meetings.
Mhm.
Head of reference, we will ask, but we will also ask whether they're interested in being a candidate, and if not, then they'll serve on the board, right? And then the current system director will reach out to us. Okay, so that's the slate to approve. So we need a second. I'm sorry. who was the first?
I first did.
Breaking first.
Carrie is the second. Carrie second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. We have our search committee. Dun, dun, dun. All right, discussion action appointment of interim director, but this is when we're going to close. So can you remind me what I have to do?
You are going to,
Just read the statement.
you're gonna, read the statement, and then you're gonna move to go into closed session.
And we vote in closed session, or should I put the motion?
Actually, that's a good point.
we'll
So,
go into closed session. Figure out what we want to do, come back in open session.
Yep.
Let's just check on that.
And then-
Do that.
I've seen them do this in city meetings, so I'm gonna do it here. When we get out of closed session, we are going to end the meeting. No further action will be taken. And so when I disconnect the recording and the stream, we're not gonna start the stream again. It's just to go out into closed session, or to adjourn. So that's what I.
And then you should do a roll call for closed session.
Are you
You
concerned
have
about?
to, yeah.
Are you concerned about that?
When are you going to vote? You going to vote in closed session on the interim and not make it a public action? Is it-
I suppose we could.
In order to actually appoint them,
Okay.
you would need to
That's
do that in open session.
Okay, then we're gonna have to, give me a second, because I'm gonna have to restart all the technology.
Or did you already turn it all
Not yet, no.
off? Oh, okay.
But I can't do the stream in closed session, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we'll just have to give me a minute, but I can definitely do all that.
So again, do I need to do the motion now? That we're gonna go into.
Go into closed
discuss
session,
and
yep.
vote and go in, okay. So I need a motion? Can we vote to go into closed session?
Yes,
Sorry, I just
roll-
don't know. Okay.
Roll call vote to go into closed session.
Can I get a motion to move into closed session for discussion and action on appointment of the interim library director?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Who seconded, Phyllis?
You can.
Thank
We're all
you.
deferring to Dave.
All those in
Yeah.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against,
No.
nay. Motion passes.
Motions to go into closed session have to be done by roll call.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Oh, I
I very
didn't understand
rarely
that.
have thought of that, and that's
Yeah.
my fault. So
Okay.
we can do, that. Okay.
So, but you have to read the statement.
You're supposed to read the statement for the
Yeah.
closed session, so, did you make the motion, Tracy?
I did.
You want to read the statement?
Sure, that's fine.
Oh.
So my motion to go into closed section is for notice of closed session. The library board of the city of Muskego will meet at approximately 6 p.m. or soon thereafter as time permits on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025 in the library conference room, Muskego Public Library, South 73, West 16663, Janesville Road, Muskego, Wisconsin, following conclusion of consideration of the above portion of its regularly scheduled agenda to vote on a motion to convene in closed session at said time and place for discussion action relative to appointment of interim director. The library board will hold the closed session in the library conference room.
And then the rest of it's on the back.
Oh, sorry. There's more.
There's more.
A closed session for the above purpose is authorized pursuant to the provisions of Wisconsin State Stats Section 19.85 Sub 1 Sub C, which authorizes a governmental body, upon motion duly made and carried, to meet in closed session to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Upon conclusion of the closed session, the library board will convene in open session to consider its public agenda, including motions to recommend approval or rejection of the above listed deliberations or any of the public agenda items that have not been acted upon. And then we need a roll call.
So now we
I
need
will
to-
second.
And I promise, I'm gonna write up how we do this in the future. I'm sorry, Michelle, I don't think I've ever had anything, and it's a complex process, so I will get that squared away. Okay, so we're doing a roll call. Dave,
Aye.
Barb,
I
Carrie,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Phyllis,
Aye.
Kristen.
I
Motion approved. Roll call, motion approved. To go into closed session
Closed session.
at 7:02.
Yeah.
So we are back in open session as of 7:19 p.m. So now I believe you actually move, do the motion to appoint.
Can I get a motion to appoint Samantha Quayle as interim library director?
I move.
second.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Phyllis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion passes.
And I'm sorry, that was a first for Carrie and a second for Phyllis, or did I reverse?
Yes.
No,
Okay. Communication. Okay. I do have a communication.
Communications and miscellaneous business as authorized by law. None being said, can I
Oh,
get a
sorry, I'm
Nope.
sorry, I'm sorry, I have one thing. Just a reminder, we have our next board meeting May 20th, so twice in 1 month. It's a busy meeting, so please, if you have any questions, especially about those policies in advance, let me know. And please bring your calendars with you as we continue to discuss. I will bring the results of the survey as we continue to discuss when it's best to meet. This was freakishly easy, the first Wednesday of the month at 6. My only concern is that if we can't get the financials from the previous month that quickly. So I'm going to do a few other conversations to try to figure out. I'm just saying this was easy.
Good to know.
This day works for me very well. So.
I know. It's just, the financials just aren't ready from the previous month yet. So I'll bring a suggestion to you. It's just not the most ideal related to that. Okay, that's all I have. All right.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Meeting ends at 7:21 p.m. Monday.